ICSA, Mr. McNamara.
Thanks everyone for the opportunity to address this meeting today. We were sent out 6 questions. I want to give answers to 6 questions that were sent out. The first one is, what are the anticipated economic effects for the agricultural sector that would result in further decrease in nitrate irrigation? And the effects can be categorised as follows: the impact on the profitability of farms that are dependent on irrigation from the loss of output, the impact on other farmers who lose rental land to irrigation farmers who wish to maintain total output. This is a big problem for active cattle, sheep and tillage farmers who cannot compete with crazy land rental prices. We need tillage to reduce dependency on imported feed, and it is very difficult to operate suckler or dairy farms without straw calving time. A decrease to 170 would undermine our grass-based system and the competitive advantage we have compared to our EU neighbours. The grass-fed beef PGI is a recognition that grass-based farming is a traditional and valuable system of farming which brings many benefits in terms of animal welfare, nutrition and better food for consumers. The overall impact will be to undermine our food imports, which were worth more than 16 billion in 2023. 16 billion. Now, number 2, what are the anticipated social effects for the agricultural sector that result from a further decrease in nitrates irrigation? It is our view that the reduction from 250 to 220 has been difficult for farmers because plans have been derailed, and this is a source of frustration. A reduction to 170 would likely undermine the prospects for many young farmers who would question the economics of full-time farming. The point is that social fabric of rural Ireland is certainly threatened by the lack of young people wanting to farm. More and more dependence, inspections, complex rules, penalties and poor prospects of viable farmers will only make things worse. Now, the third question: is it possible to maintain Ireland's nitrates delegation as it is current level while ensuring that there are improvements to Ireland's water quality? It is difficult to make definite judgments on water quality improvements when we still see Ischia being fined for allowing pollutant materials into water catchments after 10 years of ownership and water schemes. This is also a challenge that science is still evolving and farmers are struggling to keep up with changing advice. For example, farmers have invested billions in slurry storage over the past 20 years in line with scientific advice. But it is the case that climate patterns, especially rainfall, has led to questions about whether there is enough storage on farms. As it stands, the storage requirements vary from 60 to 22 weeks, depending on what part of the country your farm is in. It's looking like this is not enough, but there are serious questions about how extra storage can be achieved on farms at a time when interest rates are no longer low, construction costs have rocketed, and TAM's system is broken. How can we expect low-income beef and suckler farmers to invest in additional storage when their income is not enough to cover repayments? ICSA believe that it's time for the Minister to take on board the recommendations of the Ag Water Quality Group to increase the rate of grant for slurry storage. A 70% grant was announced in the budget for tillage farms importing slurry. We think this should apply to all farms. It is far more practical in most cases to store the slurry where the animals are kept. We must also question the advice that was being pushed only a few years ago that dairy expansion could be achieved using topless cubicles and standoff pads. This, in our view, did nobody any favours because it pushed people to run faster, just to stand still and give a false view of how cheap milk could be produced. We also must look at the 2009 experience where farmers were advised to spread chemical nitrogen after the long hot summer, and this advice turned out to be a major mistake. It's unfair to blame farmers when the scientific research is not up to date. However, on a positive note, there is a huge commitment by farmers to do more. Fertiliser sales in 2023 are down 33% since 2021. This is very significant, and there is increased use of protected urea. Total nitrogen sales were down to 208,000 tonnes in 2023, beating the 2030 Climate Action Plan target for 2030. Farmers have done a lot in reseeding with clover, but there are still gaps in knowledge about how to manage clover and the potential for excess nitrogen in the soil fixed for the atmosphere by clover. In conclusion, I think that if ICSA could undertake as much work as farmers are doing at pace, then we can certainly see improvements in water quality. But in our view, the EPA needs to be put on the same emphasis as ICSA as it is on farmers, And the four questions: is Nitrates Action Programme fit for purpose and protecting Irish water quality? In our view, farmers working with Teagasc initiatives like the SSAP programme and the work being done by the Ag Water Quality Group demonstrate huge commitment by the farming sector. The motivation of our commitment to the Nitrates Action Plan and the retention of derogation. But it must be said that many farmers are increasingly frustrated by more and more complexity and rules which are hard to keep up with. The deadlines for studies, the new rules on soil water, the new rules on soil and the new maximums on chemical fertiliser, and the new fertiliser database, the risk of overuse of slurry ration, etc. So many rules people can't keep up with. Are there additional supports required to ensure farmers can be compliant with Nitrogen Action Programme? I will say it again, farmers need a far higher grant if they are expected to invest in more slurry storage. They also need better research information delivered in a timely manner. In recent times, we are seeing challenges on the learning curve, and that's fair enough, in relation to things like how we deal with drought. But it's not fair to expect farmers to know how to deal with adverse conditions when the advisory services are struggling to cope. Now, question 6, are there additional resources required to ensure the measures required by Nitrogen Action Programme are immediately enforced? ICSA is actually concerned that farmers are facing a massive increase in inspections at a time when the EU is talking about trying to substantially reduce inspections. It is hard for farmers to put up with local authorities quadruple their inspections numbers when the local authorities had for many years responsibility for water and sewage that was not fit for purpose. And even under ICSA, the rate of improvement is not good enough despite the resources available to them. How can we expect farmers to achieve results at pace when agencies with far more resources are still struggling? How about penalties that they are appropriate to scale for ICSA? I think farmers are very committed to improvement, but for many, the economics of investment don't stack up with the better supports. Thank you very much. ICSA, biggest problem we see is as farmers is you have the County Council discipline their inspections of farmers, right? Okay. The County Council are the biggest polluters themselves, not the farmers. Like you heard, a lot of our sewage out of most towns is running into rivers and streams and lakes all over the place. Like we see it ourselves. Like I'm not that far away from a town. I see the treatment plant not working. It isn't just working. It's just go down the rivers and that's it. Especially with the wet weather, it's just running down the river. Now, I think before the council comes out and has the cheek to come out to inspect farmers, have similar inspection of farmers, let them get their own house in order first, women the EIP. That's all I can say. There's no point in them coming out to us, torturing us as farmers, oh you've this wrong, you've that wrong, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. Get their own house in order first. Like a lot of farmers, most farmers, I could say 99% of the farmers are compliant enough. They might have, like I said, the wet weather and things, they can get, something can happen to no fault of farmers' own, but most farmers are fully compliant. But as far as the councils are concerned, and water treatment, sewage plants, like they're getting, like ICSA, they're getting serious money put into them for the last 10 years. I don't think they're any further on than they were 10 years ago. Whereas us farmers, we're getting nothing. We have to do it nearly our own pocket.
Well, look at Sean, I would agree very much so about the wastewater treatment plants.
You know what I mean? And then another thing, they were talking about young farmers there and going, Danny was talking about young farmers going back to farming. Now, I have a young lad at farming with me.
Yeah.
And we've had our enterprise going on our farm. But there's no viable living for any young farmer farming anymore. We can forget about this. We can talk about what we like. We can talk about nature restoration. We can talk about nitrates. We can talk about what we like. But the big problem is what we are going to see here is in a very, very short time is food security. It's food security. It's food security. That's going to be a big problem. Because the simple reason, we're going to lose a generation of farmers. That's for certain. Yeah. We're definitely going to lose it. The guy been out in Europe, and I was listening to Mike Fitzmaurice talking about out in Europe. I was out in Europe. One crowd is talking about food security, and another crowd is talking about cutting back in numbers. We see what's going on in England at the moment with the sheep. The Houthis is, we see what food security can do. The Houthis is bombing the boats on the Suez Canal, or bombing the ships in the Suez Canal. The New Zealand lamb can't come in England. What happens? Lamb has gone up to 8.20 or 8.30 in England, which wasn't seen in years. So that proves a point that food security is a serious issue. And that's, like we can talk away for days and days about all this. A farmer should do this, a farmer should do that, a farmer should do that. But the main thing we have to look at is food security.
Food security and investment in wastewater treatment plants. Thank you.
Do you want to make a brief comment?
Just a brief comment.
Thank you, Dan.
I'll come on and say.
I have a son farming at home with me. He's in charge, and I have heard my wife saying on a few occasions, it's an awful pity that he didn't take another profession, because he can't get weekends off, he can't get evenings off. He has a young family, 3 young children, and right now I don't see his sons taking on the farming because it's too big a job. That's all I have to say.